Imagine this. You're 26 years old and you have just launched a digital agency. You're the underdog, competing against the giants of Madison Avenue from day one. For 5 years, you grind it out, winning innovative startups and building a name for yourself. But the operational weight of the business, payroll, collections, HR, starts to pull you under. So you decide to sell the company you bled for. For most founders, that's the end of the story. But for John Sampogna, it was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where he stayed on to run his agency for another 6 years, proving that selling your business doesn't have to mean selling your soul. I'm Ryan Atkinson, and this is the Upflip Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses. Today, John is here to share his playbook for how to compete with the giants, build a business that runs on consistency, and redefine what success looks like after you've already made it. I am so excited for this. I'm excited to be inspired as an agency owner myself. So, John, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's going to be good. And let's rewind the clock. Take us back to John. 26 years old, you co-found Wondersauce. You have the ambition to compete with the major players in your guys' market. I mean, where did that confidence come from and belief from such a young age that you guys could actually do this?
Yeah, I think that it all comes down to doing the work well. For me, it was always about the work, making sure the people that are paying you money are super happy. And it doesn't matter if you're a company that creates, campaigns, buys media, makes websites, or if you are a landscaping crew or a house cleaning business. At the end of the day, if you're a services business, your clients will dictate your viability in market and ultimately how much you grow. So when we made the decision to start the agency, there's risk involved in that, but we knew collectively that the output of what we would do on day one in terms of work quality would be incredibly high. And once we had a client get a taste of that, they would speak and it would start to spiral and we would pick up more clients. So we never kind of started the agency on day one. We're like, we want to go after the biggest brands, the biggest agencies in the world. We knew that if we were doing good work, we would get there. And honestly, it starts with small wins, and those small wins turn to bigger things. And before you know it, you find yourself in very big boardrooms pitching very fancy people. And you're like, how did I get here? And I think I'm still a kid. So this is cool.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And I want to talk about that boardroom perspective, because you had a pivotal moment where turning pro moment when you want to pitch against several large, traditional big name agencies here. Take us inside the room where that all happened. What did you do differently to win some of those? Kind of paint us a picture of right there.
So anyone who engages with me or Wondersauce, we don't have a sales team. We don't sell. We give you ideas. We speak about how we can impact your business. And we are ruthlessly raw in our delivery, very blunt. People think that I'm it's not abrasive. It's just how I speak, but it's direct. Maybe it's abrasive. I don't know. But I like to get excited about things. So for me, when we're pitching business and there's organic excitement about an idea, how we would service it, the process we would adapt to ensure it's going to be successful, we have no other speed except full send when it comes to being able to articulate why we think we're the best fit for something. So I remember, the same playbook we had, it worked on smaller businesses, and we found ourselves in bigger pitches. And all of a sudden you're in a room with, very respected individuals and executives. And I think a lot of times the raw aspect of what made us unique was refreshing to a lot of companies where they were used to seeing agencies come in super polished and really buttoned up and everything was scripted. And then we would come in 4 or 5 of us and we would just kind of riff on expertise and give them different perspectives and simplify things. And people would just be refreshed. So a lot of times that would get us to the finals. That would get us to the final 2. And then we would basically dial up our diligence and we would put together all the things you need to be a serious business. Here's the team and how the structure will be built around, reporting for your business. Here are the hours. Here's the process. Here's how we're going to handle stakeholder interviews. Here's how we're going to handle feedback. And all the things that a big buttoned up shop has, we would basically then go about doing that because we came from big agencies. We knew that level, but we wouldn't default to that level until the second or third round of the pitch when we already had their trust and they knew we were smart, because we had to overcome the fact that, we looked young and we were young and we had a lack of experience. So we had to win them over with our smarts first, and then ultimately then check all the administrative boxes, all the risk boxes, down the line.
That's super interesting. I want to ask about this playbook a little bit more. And like what I love about your approach so far is I don't know if you've ever read the Challenger Sale, but basically the methodology behind that is like, I'm going to go into a conversation. I know more than this person about subject matter expert. I'm going to teach them something there. I love that. That's like truly like what you're doing with this. I want to talk about that playbook like a little bit more. So take us through like that process, like putting together the deck. Cause I want to speak to the audience about like, how do you appear bigger than like you actually are? It sounds like you guys got that down to a T when you're just starting out. So talk to us a little bit more about that playbook and like the presentation and how you brought together ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to appear much larger than you actually are. And I think there's always an element of like fake it until you make it. I think like it's very true, but you also don't want to be like misleading to the extent where you do something wrong and then you're in trouble. I do think like you need to be able to back up what you're saying. So whether it's relying on freelancers or having like pre-committed staff that you'll hire once you win a bigger piece of work, at the end of the day, I always rest on the idea that like if those people didn't exist and like something bad happened and you couldn't staff up immediately, could the people that you have on hand do the work, even if it required a gnarly run of like nights and weekends? And if the answer is yes, with some help, then like, yeah, you're faking it a little bit, but like the subject matter expertise is there. And then you also have to think about like, what are the elements of your business that are the most risky? And you don't want to be messing around with that. I think like from our perspective, if we're building you a digital product, like a mobile experience, and you don't have an engineering team, that's a really big gap that you shouldn't be faking. Let's say maybe you're missing some piece, like you're missing you don't have a full-time QA person to test, but like your producer can test, your engineers can test. That's something you can like supplement with like freelancers. But like you want to make sure that like the core of what they're asking for, you can deliver because clients are smart and you don't want to be caught in a situation where they expose you because then your reputation is shot, and reputation is everything in this industry. Like we built our business on reputation. So I also think you could be honest. You could be like completely like show the cards of what you have today and where you're going and why that's a good thing for this business to jump on early. And like we had that a lot early days where we had a senior team of people that were like just amazing at what they did. And we were saying like, this is your team. There's no hiding. You're getting this team in this room. So if this team in this room is exciting and you like the vibe, well, sign on the dotted line because you're getting it. And if you don't like us, then you should immediately end this conversation because this is all we have. So people always like, promise like they don't want to bait and switch. There's no way to bait and switch when you're small.
Ah, that's super good. I love that, like the transparency through that whole process. I want to kind of fast forward as well because a super important part of your story is actually selling. You guys sold to like Project Worldwide, but you stayed on to run the company. Obviously, you're still like running the company here. Talk to us about the difference between being like a founder now versus kind of being like an intrapreneur. How did like your role like change or anything? Or like, what does that look like?
Well, like selling your company is always like one of those moments that is glorified. And in many instances, I feel like it's the end for so many people. For us, it was an incredible journey. I mean, it went from 2 people to 100 people in 5 years. And, a completely independent agency in New York City that was digitally focused was a very good asset. At the time, we were wise beyond our years. We knew we had a good asset. And when you have a good asset, you get to basically be a little bit more selective with finding a permanent home. And the important thing for us is we went into the sales process with exactly what we wanted. We were not done building. Our story had not ended yet. We were not trying to retire. We were not trying to like stop and play golf. We were trying to keep growing. And Project was really unique. They have a history of buying founder-led businesses and keeping the founders. So when we met with them, and they have like 13 agencies at the time, and I think 12 of them still had the founder operating the business. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. So for me, that was incredibly interesting. And they also had a very collaborative network of complementary businesses that can kind of like 1+1 = 10. That was interesting to me. So I've heard horror stories about acquisitions, especially in this industry. And I can't say enough how positive that acquisition was and how it continues to be one of the better decisions we've ever made. So, I mean, I still feel like an entrepreneur. I still feel like it's my business and my baby. And even though I don't own any of it anymore, I'm still in charge of the fate and the decisions we make of Wondersauce. And it's an amazing model. And I think that for anyone out there ever considering selling their business, you need to be very clear about what you want out of your business. Now, for me, it was to keep building. For you, it could be to exit And that's it, you're done. And if that is your goal, you need to be transparent with your buyers about, I built this thing. Here's why it's special. And here's why I'm not important for it in the future. Make sure you've built redundancy into your business. So when you tell that story, you don't scare everyone off. If you're still the business and they're like, I want this person, they are everything. And the second you walk away, the business crumbles, no one's going to buy your business. So you need to understand like scale, redundancies, and ultimately be honest, because you talk about how you're excited to build, you're excited to join this thing, and then you leave right away. It's not a good look. So be honest about your intentions for an acquisition anytime you're exploring that as well.
Most people spend months, sometimes years, just thinking about starting a business. But what if you could do it in just 10 days? That's exactly what the 10-day business launch plan is designed for. It's a step-by-step roadmap that takes you from idea to real operational business in just 10 days. Click the link in the description below and get ready with your business. Talk to us about the redundancy, because like future state for a lot of people, they're going to want to start companies. They're interested in starting companies, and exiting like is probably like a very common like end goal in mind. But a super important part of that is like building systems and redundancy. Like as you talked about, talk to us a little bit more about like setting up systems and like why it's so important. I just want to like really hit the nail on the head for people that like, if you're going to sell a business, you need to have like your systems, your SOPs in place here.
Yes, every business, I don't care what it is, they need to have a clean back end financially. They need to have audited financial statements, a good system that ties into their banks to handle things like invoicing and payroll and all that good stuff, accounts receivable. So you need that. I don't care how big the business is, get in the habit of having an incredibly clean financial back end on day one. And then operations. Like for us, operations looks like resourcing because we're a people business. So like what people go where on what projects for how long, crucial. You need to constantly have an inbound stream of talent that you're interviewing. So everyone's operations is going to look different. You need to have people that are in charge of different disciplines, creative, technology, content, media, project management, etc. So like as you scale, you need to have someone who's accountable for that pod. And that pod could be consistent of like one person oversees 4 people, or one person oversees 5 other executives who oversee 500 people. But you need to have your systems of accountability. So every layer of scale has a different depth. But at the end of the day, you're going to start making like micro decisions that start to lead to making yourself less and less relevant at the business level. So it starts with like, it's very easy. Like, when we're 2 people and you're making your first hire, I think the instinct is to always go like, well, we're doing a lot of creative work and there's 2 of us. Let's hire the best creative possible. But if you're already doing good creative, maybe hire a project manager who can help organize your lives and take you out of running the day-to-day on those work streams. Because if you're the founder, if you're the CEO, if you're the creative director, you're almost undermining your ability to level up by also being the PM. So like hire someone to do that. And then like constantly start plugging holes. But I think like the knee-jerk thing I always hear from founders is like, I'm involved in everything and I have my hands in everything. I'm super hands-on. And they think that it's a good thing. And they think that they're better at a lot of the stuff than they actually are. And they don't realize, because they're so far in it, that 1, they're actually not good at a lot of it. And 2, like they don't think that their clients are upset about certain inefficiencies, because they're also hearing their clients say like, I love direction 2. It was so good. And because they heard like, they love that creative direction that you did, they're immediately forgetting that like, well, like you didn't follow up to these 3 emails, you were late on meeting notes and blah, 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 blah. So like, you're actually not that good at all those things. And if you remove yourself, your clients might actually be happier and your team might run better. So I understand it's good to roll your sleeves up, but you're probably not as good as you think you are at all that stuff anyway. So pull away.
So in the past like year or so, all of the 2024 for my own company, I was the project manager. Like I was moving projects along, I was like communicating with clients. And that's honestly not my skill set. I'm like sales and marketing like through and through. Like that's generally what I'm best at. And like we got to the end of like Q4 last year, and we were talking about before this podcast, it was such a grind. I'm like, why are we not getting new clients? It's like, well, my focus is on like serving these clients. What if I fill this role and I could focus on sales and marketing? One of the best decisions of our life. Now we're going to be growing over 100% this year, just because I don't want to toot my horn too much, but like I focus on sales and marketing. It's a founder-led sales cycle right now. What is, I mean, you grew from 2 to 100 employees in 5 years, which is obviously incredible growth. Best levers you pulled there. How did you grow so fast? It's such a large question. Take it as you will right there. But like keys to that growth, what are like 2 or 3 keys to that growth?
Again, this is another thing that applies to any business, but it's work and reputation. If your work and reputation is good, people will talk and refer you to other people. And never forget your clients that have already trusted you with their business. Always look for areas to reward them, give them more. We came from agencies that were obsessed with like every little change was like extra money, a change order, this, or looking for a new scope for that. And we were just like, give value back, make people believe. And, I remember reading like Setting the Table by Danny Mayer, like the Shake Shack founder, and the way they would go about just rewarding loyalty and getting people to like really make decisions about coming back to that restaurant because they had basic CRM in place where they were talking like the 80s and 90s, and they'd go into Union Square Cafe and they'd be like, we know John got the chicken last time. He likes the chicken. Let's try and like sell him on this dish now because he might like that. And also give him a free dessert. Like little things like that, where if a client is basically asking you for help on something, one, that's flattering because they trust you with maybe taking on more responsibility. So the way I see it is like, if a client comes to me and they're just basically like, I'd love your thoughts on this. Like, I don't know if you do it, but we need to hire for it. And I thought of you. What do you think? I'd either say like, we don't do it, but this person does, or yeah, let me think about it. And next week, we're going to give them 10 ideas that we feel like are immediate opportunities for them, and you're moving. But for me, it's like doubling down on the clients that trust you and doing great work because it's such a small community and people talk. So for us, like we've built that in our entire business on reputation and word of mouth. And like for you, like if you're a gifted salesperson and removing yourself from project management, you were able to basically grow 100% a year by focusing on marketing and sales. It is so much harder for you to find someone who's Ryan, who can sell like you, versus getting your complete focus on the most important thing. And then like, what does it look like to give you a platform to even be like louder in more places and have more awareness? And that could be like paid opportunities at conference and speaking engagements. It could be professional content like we're doing right now. But like, there's a way to do like scale on that model too, without it requiring hiring a robust sales team. Could also just be a sales team. But there's a bunch of ways of kind of doing this. But for us, it was all about just like, let the work speak for itself and it'll spiral.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And that's what I wanted to hit on next is like service offerings, because obviously you guys have expanded your service as well. You talk with clients who have a good understanding of like what they want. Talks about like a new service offering to the client. Like how does that work go? And you're essentially offer it for free if I'm like reading this correctly. How do you guys go about that? Because obviously that takes a lot of vulnerability and transparency as you've discussed before. But why is it super powerful to do it that way? To say, hey, we're going to learn with you. Does that build trust or what is that?
Well, it has to make sense. So, like in the early days, we were doing websites, apps, branding systems, and some campaigns. This was like 2011 or something. People were like, can you buy our Facebook ads? Can you buy our Facebook ads? Blah, 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 blah. This is like 15 years ago. And we were like, yeah, we could do it. I mean, it had just come out. And we were learning alongside them, like basically performance marketing and paid. And when one person asks you, they might just be asking you. But when 2 people ask, 3 people ask, 4 people ask, they see you as someone who probably does this. So there's something there. So like if people are thinking about you through a certain lens and a few people start saying the same thing, there's a reason. It's not just random. There's an opportunity for you. So you could potentially use that to lean in, to learn it, and just be transparent with your clients about like, this is where we're at in our journey, and we're willing to give you a break on pricing until we basically prove this. And this is your goal. When we hit it, we want to be paid better. But I think like you could just be brutally transparent about that type of stuff if you think it makes sense to your business. I mean, I feel like that's what's happening right now with AI. Like you're seeing people kind of fall into traps where because AI is so approachable and so democratized, people are spinning up these products using like ChatGPT and Gemini, and they're like, we can start selling this. And it's like, well, no, you can't. Like, that's not a real product. Like, just because you built a GPT doesn't mean like you're a product developer now. Like you built an efficiency tool. Great. Be more efficient. But like, don't confuse that with like You didn't just build software that like you can like sell and license. Like that's not your business. So know the difference.
Yeah, no, that's super super good. I also want to talk about obviously John throughout like this whole podcast, like you have been energized as heck, and which I absolutely love. Like I feed off that energy as well. An important part of your routine is waking up at like 5:30 a.m. Talks about the importance of having like a morning routine, how that drives discipline, energy, all that. Because I want to talk to the entrepreneurs that they could have better habits here. So talk to us what John does.
Oh man. Well, I'm 41 now. So
You look great for 41, man.
I've got to kind of like pick and choose my battles here around how to get the most out of me. When I was 26, I could just roll out of bed and do whatever and then stay up until 5 a.m. and I'm fine. But for me now, I need like rest, exercise, and to feel like clear to be effective, or I'm just too cloudy. So, yeah, like I also have a 4-year-old daughter. So, like, she consumes a lot of my time as well. And it's like, you have to find time for yourself. So waking up and prioritizing getting a sweat in, eating right, and ultimately starting the day where you feel mental clarity, it gives me more energy. So it's something that I started taking really seriously a few years ago. And it's cliche, but it's very helpful. So whatever that is that works for you, some people like to run, some people lift weights, some people do classes, whatever it is for you, whatever you can do consistently that isn't like a crazy burden, I really encourage because it's key to maintain that energy all the time. Or, no one will also people, the clients want to feel inspired when they speak to you. So you don't want to be like kind of tired.
What are like, if you could advise, a first time founder to develop these two habits, if it's personally or like professionally, what would it be? Because I mean, you have a very successful business. You sold it, you grew it. I mean, you're still growing it. I want to talk about like the habits that have like set you up for success. Like, what is it, either personally or professionally as well?
Well, I think before you even get into it, you've got to like start a business for the right reasons. If you're only starting a business because you think it's a good path to money, but it's not actually something you're good at or inspired by, you're not going to make it. There's better people down the street than you are. And you have to think about this. Like for me, like what we do here, I don't consider this work. When I'm like learning about something that is going to better my business or what new trend is going to impact us or new technology, I'm reading it because I'm interested. I'm not reading it because like I have to. So I'm just absorbing this stuff organically. It's second nature to me. I don't have like a reading list every day. I don't like force myself to listen to podcasts because I have to. My media mix has been like curated over the course of years. It's constantly changing, but it's based on my interests, and I'm able to figure out how to like tie that to my work. But if you're starting a business for the wrong reasons, you're going to get exposed and you're going to get beat by someone who's just better at it than you are. So start it for the right reasons. And then I think, the second thing is as you scale, you need to surround yourself with good people. And you need to find people that are better than you are at certain things. And you need to be comfortable, like not having the answer for everything. That's something that like, I struggle with. It's probably like really obnoxious. It's just like, dude, pause, pump the brakes. No one's asking for your input here. Like we're actually just like reporting back something's free. So like, listen. So as I've matured in business, as the company has matured, I keep taking steps back. The company keeps getting better. I keep finding new ways to reinvent my role. So I think like whether your business is, what I'm doing or something completely different, people matter. And you need to find the right people to make you better and to make your clients and your customers super excited. So for me, it's like the right reasons and the right people always.
Nice. I absolutely love it. Before we dive into our fan books, I just want to ask like a reflection question here. Obviously, you've been running this since you're 26, you're 41 now. What time frame do you feel like you grew the most professionally? Was it when you were going from 2 to 10 employees, 2 to 100? Was it after you sold? Just curious there. And why did you feel that growth? Yeah.
It's a really good question because like people ask me why I'm still doing this. And I've had like really interesting reinvention moments. I'll say like the first year was just so wild because it's like the pinch me moment where you're 2 people, then you're 10 people by a year end. And you're like, oh my God, like I have employees. This is so good. And then like by year 3, you're 40 people. You sign like a big lease in like New York City. You had a fancy office and you're like, pinch me, pinch me, pinch me. And then, the acquisition process, which is everyone's dream, like, right? You go through that process. It's really cool. You meet really interesting people. Like You have interesting clients. All this stuff is just like happening so fast. So the first 5 years were incredible. I learned so much. And then like, I remember you come up against like your first run of adversity. Like the first 5 years, we were untouchable. Like nothing happened bad. We just flew. It was all good. And then you have adversity. You get punched in the mouth for the first time. And it's like, can you get up? Can you reinvent? Can you replace 30% of your revenue? Can you pivot the business? I remember that happening. And then COVID happened. Can you navigate your company virtually? Can you usher your employees through a very stressful period and keep the business afloat? And in the last 5 years, really, like we've pivoted. We're a business acceleration agency. We sell results. We don't sell services. We sell revenue acceleration for businesses that want to grow. And we sell digital transformation for people that need new infrastructure. And I have not felt stronger than I do now about where we are market wise. I think our market fit is perfect. We're having the best year we've ever had, year 15 of Wondersauce. So we've reached a new high watermark now. So for me, it's like constantly finding new ways to like get excited, whether it's like your first 5 years of literally surviving and thriving, your first time picking yourself up off the street and dusting yourself off and like figuring out how to fix and then how to reinvent and hit new levels of success. Like that's how I get excited. And like for me, like those three pivotal points were like, my biggest learnings. And I feel like it wasn't until like 5 or 6 years ago that I was like truly a CEO. Now I feel like I actually am. I've earned the title.
Yeah, no, that's so funny because literally this morning, 6 hours ago, 5 hours ago, I was thinking, because like I do a lot of sales. It's like, when am I going to make that transition to CEO? I feel like I do have a long road ahead. I want to ask about like strategy and plan. I know we were going to dive into fan, but screw that. I do have another question for you here, actually. So let's just say, we're in year 2, we're going to year 3 next year. So we're probably going to be on pace from like 100 to like 130% year over year growth from last year, which is great, obviously. But now we're starting to ask the question, okay, how do we do that again? How should we like approach that? Like, is it taking bets in other areas? Like growing year over year, 100% is great, obviously, but like, how do you keep placing those bets? So like, how would you like strategize or like plan that? Just to set it out.
I think like the first step is thinking about, are there complementary services that you can sell to your existing clients that are low hanging fruit that your team could execute and nail right now? And if the answer is yes, that's an easy way to ultimately package it. And that's something where you go to one or two of your trusted clients, you say, look, this is where I want to bring the business. I want to take some of this work on for you. Are you down? It could be free, but after 3 months, if you like it, can you give me like a testimonial? And maybe even just like jump on a quick video with me and let's talk about like this specific, we'll use email marketing. Let's talk about like different email marketing workflows and like how to drive loyalty through email. And let's create some content around it as a thank you from me so I can put it out there to the world and you can give me a stamp of credibility. So like, that's a good way of like driving upsell and organic. And if that's how the path you go down and you have the success, the client wants to collab on some content. Now it's like, how do you productize it? Don't sell the service, sell the result. And that's something I'm big on right now. Like don't sell email marketing, sell client retention. So like build a client retention practice where you're talking about how you're driving a KPI around client retention. And like you want to be held accountable for all the new clients we're going to help you sign up. We want to help you retain them too. So like we're introducing this retention score. I mean, I'm making this all up, but like sell the result, right? So that's a way of basically taking a complementary service and almost building like a different business that's all driving around one of your clients' most important results. So that's one area. And then I think you could do the same exact thing with your core business where you start asking yourself, and this is like an exercise I've had to go through a lot, where it's like, we're not a creative agency, we're not a digital agency, we sell results. So like going down this path of basically like in a world where everyone's scared about AI and it's going to commoditize this and that, and hourly rates are going to go away and all that stuff, right? The best way of getting around that is to lean into your value. What are you actually doing that is not commoditized? That is not something that can be replaced tomorrow. And figure out how to lean into that and basically build all your comms. So you're going after clients looking for a specific business problem they're trying to solve. They're not trying to find more video production. They're trying to find X. And lean in there and just like a broken record. Like people think that like you've produced one piece of content around like this story and they think that's enough. It's not enough. You've got to produce like 100 pieces of content talking about how your video solutions do this because no one listens, no one watches, no one remembers. So be a broken record, drill it into people's heads. And I think if there's a way to grow through a niche, that could be a path. But like, I'd say like whether you're broad or whether you're a niche, you could go deep, deep, deep down into a space. And there's always clients that are looking for good, trusted work. But for me right now, it's like content marketing is so big. And if you're doing it for the right reasons and you've got something unique to say, you can sign clients that way.
Well, John, this has been amazing. This has been really, really good. So I appreciate you coming on here. Let's jump into our Fan Blitz questions. And these questions are submitted from our community. Listeners, if you want to join in on entrepreneurs that grew their companies from 2 to 100 employees, go to www.youtube.com/upflip and submit your questions there. But John, ready for our last 5 questions here?
Let's do it.
What's one business tool under $100 that you can't live without?
I guess Slack right now.
Slack's great. What's the most expensive mistake you've made in business and what did you learn from it?
Oh man, just make sure you're buttoned up with your contracts and protect yourself. Good insurance.
I like it. What book, podcast, or resource has had the biggest impact on your mindset?
Whatever makes you think about your job differently and gets you out of the echo chamber of what everyone is thinking. I get inspiration from the weirdest stuff. We're at an executive summit right now with our core leadership team, and a few people, this is embarrassing, a few people on the team are watching the show, The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Oh, it's great. I watched that last night.
So for me, like the show is what it is, but like the most interesting thing about the show is that it drops at 3 a.m. on Wednesdays. That's interesting. I don't know why they do it, but there's something there. I'm going to use that idea for something in the future. It gets me thinking about my business differently. So whatever gets you out of the rut of everyone sounding the same, just consume that.
What's the toughest part of running an agency that people don't usually see?
The emotional tax that goes with managing people, where you're constantly having to protect them and no one necessarily is thinking about you. And you need to be egoless and figure out your own coping ways of making yourself get through the day. Because when you're in charge, you have those same feelings that everyone else has, but you kind of got to keep it together and you got to figure out your own ways of kind of getting through it, because you got to be there for your people and make sure that they're protected.
Great answer. Last one for you. If you could go back and give your 26-year-old self advice, what would that advice be? Just one sentence of advice for them.
I wouldn't give him any advice because he did a good job. And there's something great about being blissfully naive. The more you know, the more protective you are and conservative you are in your decision making. And there's something really pure about not knowing that much. So I'd go back to that.
I love it. Well, John, thank you so much for being here. Last question for you. Someone's like, man, I got to check out John, see what he's doing. Where can they connect with you and where can they learn a little bit more about Wondersauce?
Yeah, wondersauce.com. You could drop us a line there and talk to me. LinkedIn, shoot me a DM if you want to chat. Yeah.
Listeners, great episode with John. 3 quick takeaways for you. Number 1, do great work. He talked about it multiple times throughout the podcast. You've got to do great work, and that's what will drive retention and loyalty from customers. Number 2, I loved this little tidbit that he said, sell the results, not the product. You need to sell results before you're selling exactly what you're doing. Sell results, super, super good there. And then number 3, if you guys are doing a new service offering, give clients more. Give it to them for free to test it out. Be transparent, be vulnerable about it. Great episode with John. If you guys are enjoying having world-class entrepreneurs on this podcast, do us a favor. Leave us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps us get more amazing entrepreneurs onto the show. And you know what? We'll see you next Monday. Thanks for tuning in. Well, John, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Ryan.